need to log in actually.
Okay.
Just
So
wait for one more minute. 1 minute we will wait. Then you
okay.
can start. You can share your screen.
Okay. Okay.
You
Okay.
can share your screen now.
Okay. Okay.
After 1 minute you can start. Okay, we can start, Dr. Lakshmi.
Okay. Thank you, Yasin. And greetings for the day. And I'm happy that this is going to be one of my favorite topics that I'm going to tell you or let you know on the utility of 3D in obstetric imaging. We have come to the fag end of the masterclass, and I hope you enjoyed all the lectures. And in this lecture, my idea would be just to let you know the potential of 3D ultrasound in obstetric imaging. So, to answer this question, is 3D technology an absolute necessity in diagnostic ultrasound, or is it only a luxury? So, for this, I think you will answer at the end of this presentation. Obviously, 3D ultrasound is an indispensable tool in our diagnostic armamentarium, and when added to our routine 2D ultrasound, it definitively plays a major role in improving our diagnostic confidence. What is the advantage of 3D ultrasound? The advantage is you can visualize the C plane or the coronal plane because in the sagittal and in the transverse view, you will not be able to see the entire spine like this, and you will never be able to see the ribs nicely delineated out like this. So it is with the advantage of 3D ultrasound that you are able to visualize the coronal plane, and this is one of the major advantages what we cannot do with a simple 2D ultrasound. In obstetric imaging, the areas where 3D ultrasound is known to have potential benefits would be the brain, the spine, face, limbs, the palate, especially to evaluate vascular anomalies and obviously the heart. So just look at this image. So when you do a mid-sagittal profile of the face, you understand that this looks like a very dysmorphic faces. And then when you look at the orbits and the eyelids, you see there is something which is not obviously normal here. Probably you have an ectropion here. Look at the amniotic fluid. It has a lot of internal echoes in this image. And then look at the limbs. You see that the you have the hands and the feet here, and to look at how the toes are looking like. So this somehow looks like some sort of a restrictive dermatopathy condition. And the minute you apply 3D ultrasound, you understand that this is nothing but a harlequin fetus, where you see the ectropion, eclabium, and you see the hands and foot of the baby very clearly. And this is the potential of a 3D ultrasound. So it gives you a wholesome picture of what you're trying to see. And obviously, the just one learning point is this Harlequin anomaly, this Harlequin fetus can very easily be missed at the routine anomaly scan because all these findings sometimes come up late in gestation. So the ideal thing will be if you see the foot length, there'll be obviously shortening of the foot length, and that is a good predictive sign as early as 20 weeks of gestation, because the toes of the foot are actually indrawn like this in a Harlequin fetus. Can you see the toes indrawn because of the restrictive dermopathy? And this is a very early clue to identify Harlequin fetus in utero. The other potential advantages are certain things where these ear anomalies and then the scapula. See, for example, if you have a suspicion of a camptomelic dysplasia, then you would like to assess the scapula and look for scapular hypoplasia. So all these things are the additional areas where 3D ultrasound has its own role. And surface anomalies. So obviously this is a talipes, and you can obviously identify with 2D ultrasound, but the extent of the malformation, and this really helps when you counsel the woman, like how the baby's foot would look like and what would be the corrective things which the baby might need in the near future. So this is actually the which shows the bony this is the tibia and this is the foot for you, and this is the surface rendering mode which shows you how the baby's foot would look like. Next, as I already told you, in 2D ultrasound, you can see planes by planes, but in 3D, like you can assess as a whole. So for example, in this case, there is agenesis of corpus callosum. You have hypertelorism. You see, if you have attended my class on the face yesterday, I've told you that the orbits, generally the interorbital distance is the same as the size of one orbit. You see now, the orbits are very farly placed hypotelorism, and look at the nostrils. The nostrils are very much far apart, and you see this image where you clearly see the widening of the nostrils and hypotelorism. So this is again a Goldenhar-Gorlin syndrome or a hemifacial microsomia, where you can see this unilateral microphthalmos. See one orbit, you don't see the other orbit at all. Look at this abnormal ear tag here. You have a cleft lip, and you see the cleft in the alveolar ridge and the palate, and that is micrognathia. All these things put together brings out to the syndrome of a hemifacial microsomia. The next potential usage of 3D ultrasound is the mapping of the color flow mapping of vascular anomalies. So what I'm showing here is just the simple ductus venosus. This is the umbilical vein, and this is the ductus venosus, and this is the heart. And what, just look at in this case scenario, you see that there is a nice big vessel sitting here next to the aorta, and you see that the iliac vessel here is very, very prominent. And when you go and map this vessel, you understand that this is nothing but agenesis of ductus venosus, and the umbilical vein is actually entering into the iliac vein, IVC, and into the heart. So you can nicely map the entire course of the vessel, and you can nicely delineate this extrahepatic venous drainage bypassing the liver. The other potential advantage is the rendering modality, what you can use the HT live rendering or in the heart, where you can nicely delineate these small VSDs. It can be very nicely picked out on ultrasound, especially when you use these techniques. And look, this is a case of a tricuspid atresia. So you see that this is the right atrium, right ventricle, and you see that the valve does not open. There is no valvular structure here, but on HD live imaging, you clearly see this shelf-like tissue here. There is no valve at all here, whereas here you see the valve nicely opening and closing in a case of tricuspid atresia. So this is a common AV valve for you. So though you see that the crux is absent here, and you see that there is a communication between the four chambers, see how you can appreciate the common AV valve very clearly here, the valve leaflets, and you see that there is a crux defect between all the four chambers. This is just enhancing your 2D ultrasound. And in the first trimester, so it's a small heart, it's obviously very difficult to evaluate the first trimester heart, but obviously you will still be able to see the 4 chambers, the interventricular septum, the 2 valves. You can clearly see, especially when the gestation age of the fetus is from 13 weeks, you can see nicely the heart as you see in the mid trimester. Only thing is you have to little magnify and use a transvaginal approach. And you see, when you do a HD live rendering of this 12-week heart, just look at the amazing amount of information what you are getting. This is a CRL of around 60 millimeters. You see the 2 inflows very nicely. You see the interventricular septum. You see both the valves. In fact, you can also see a portion of the interatrial septum, and you can see the cardiac morphology very nicely, and even at the time of 12 to 13 weeks. Now look, this is the same 13-week heart. What I showed you in the mid trimester, it is also seen in the first trimester, where you do not see that the interventricular septum nicely. You see all the 4 chambers communicating, and the same thing, this is the color flow for you, and this is how you can appreciate the defect very nicely here. This is the interventricular septal defect here. This is a common AV valve as early as a 12 to 13-week heart. Now, leaving the heart and coming to the other technique of this OmniView technique, this is really a boon in ultrasound, especially because however you draw the line, it will allow reslicing of the structure that can be acquired along lines generated manually by the operator. It need not be an orthogonal plane, so you can have a very flexible and effective approach in the study of volume data sets. Another potential utility of 3D ultrasound is evaluation of the spine, because as I told you earlier, the C plane or the coronal plane is best used to evaluate the vertebra and the ribs. So if you have a hemivertebra, a laterally based wedge vertebra, then you obviously have an alteration in a spinal curvature, and you can have a small wedge vertebra like this. But look how nicely this can be demonstrated in a 3D ultrasound. So you see the full vertebra here, the full vertebra here, and you nicely see the triangular laterally wedge-shaped vertebra nicely wedged in between the 2 normal vertebrae. So this is 2D ultrasound, this is 3D ultrasound, and obviously the baby had other anomalies like a unilateral renal agenesis, anal atresia, and all contributing to a bacterial association. So obviously, this multiplanar imaging is one of the other major factors which really helps you when you do in obstetric imaging, is because when you see a hemivertebra in the coronal section, obviously in the sagittal section that vertebra will be missing. You won't be able to see it well. In the transverse section, you see that there is one portion of the centrum and you don't see the other portion of the centrum clearly. But all these 3 plates can be imaged in one section. So you can very nicely correlate. This is a reference dot kept here at the level of the missing vertebra, and very nicely you can delineate the wedge-shaped vertebra in this image. So this is another potential advantage, and look at this image and try and comment on it. So obviously it looks as though the thoracic vertebra, this is not very clear. You feel that there is something is missing out here, and now you want to know, you know that there is a spinal abnormality, but you want to know the magnitude of the problem, because you do not know how there is something missing in the sagittal section. Okay, so we'll go and do a detailed evaluation of the spine, and then you see what it is those missing areas where the actual hemivertebras, and see the ribs missing here, and very easily you can see, you can document the missing ribs here on ultrasound. This is a simple advantage of a simple volume acquisition and looking at the spine in the C plane. The next case scenario for you, look at the 2D ultrasound. So obviously, whenever you try and look at the spine, I would ask you to nicely magnify the spine, look into each of the vertebra, look into the intervertebral disc space, because these things can be easily missed in your routine ultrasound, because you can simply pass off the spine as normal and go away. But actually concentrate on this area. We are not very sure of the vertebra here, And once I feel that there is something missing in this area, then I try and do a coronal section and see if I can see the ribs in the coronal view. And I see that the ribs here are okay, but obviously there is something missing here, not looking good. And I'm yet to define what really is the problem. Here is where you have a tremendous advantage of 3D, because in the next image I show you, you clearly understand what is happening. So you have hemivertebras, and because of these hemivertebras, you have so many missing ribs here. So nicely you can show that these ribs are missing here. You can clearly demonstrate the abnormality not only to the counseling to the patient, but also to the pediatric neurosurgeon who can take care of this particular entity, or who can really counsel the lady of what really is the problem with the fetus. So this degree of imaging is very, very easy, and may not, this entire wholesome picture may not be possible with the planes of 2D ultrasound, and a simple 3D image will give you the entire picture and give you the entire magnitude of the problem in one section. So the same thing, now the world is moving towards early detection of anomalies. So whatever I showed you in the mid-trimester, can we see it in the 11 to 14 weeks scan? See, at 13 weeks when you do the spine looks a little up and down. It is, the curvature of the spine is not very much normal. And then when I just turn and do the coronal section, obviously you see the ribs are not very much aligned with each other. You see there are some missing ribs up and down, and you just do a rendering and see the C plane of the spine very nicely. You will know the degree of missing ribs, the degree of alignment, and you see the spine in how many places you have these missing malaligned vertebrae here, and that clearly tells you the magnitude of the problem as early as 13 weeks. The next probable thing is, whenever you think of the spine, you always think about the level of lesion. So we do, if we see a vertebra, we need to understand whether it is L1 or L2 or L3, how are we going to identify? So obviously, this is how you can just take a volume, and then you can try and place the reference dot from one. But the advantage of evaluating a volume is, because you have a volume at your hand, you can do an offline analysis. First of all, you can evaluate each vertebra by vertebra to know and to evaluate the integrity. And as you pass through the vertebra, so for example, if the reference dot is in the T12 vertebra, then you can see the ribs here, and you can see all three sections simultaneously. And from the last rib, you can start counting L1, L2, L3. You can correspondingly see in all three planes. The next thing is coming to the first trimester spine. If you have an obliteration of the intracranial translucency and you're trying to search for a neural tube defect, an open spina bifida in the first trimester, just look, when you add BCI to your 2D plane, how nicely this open neural tube defect here in the small myeloschisis. Myeloschisis are very difficult to pick up on ultrasound. You can very nicely see the exposed neural placode here. This is just on the volume. You've just applied BCI, so that has nicely brought out the lesion very nicely for you here. And on 2D ultrasound, when you have a suspicion that the skin line is missing over here, you're not very sure whether there is a spina bifida, an open spina bifida here. Look at this. The skin line here is missing. It's just looking interpret. But looking at this image, it is so difficult to comment and say that there is an open spina bifida. In the presence of intracranial signs, when you want to search for an open spina bifida, can you do something more given this best? Because I have used a transvaginal approach, and this is what I have got. So what I can do is simply acquire a volume and use BCI. The advantage of BCI is it adds the slice thickness, and when it adds the slice thickness, see how nicely you can see the skin crater here. See, This is in the transverse section of the spine. You must see the spine, the skin should be intact, but you nicely see the crater here. In fact, in the coronal section, you see the pit, and you can also obviously identify the widening of the lateral pedicles of the spine, the divergence or the U-shaped spine, and you see the crater so clearly brought out at the 13 weeks or 14 weeks scan. But how are we able to do is simply by making the advantage of BCI. And once you have done so much and once you're very sure, yes, I have nicely seen the defect. Is there anything more to add? Yes, because now you're looking at a crater, then you can use this HD live imaging because you have the light effect on it and see how nicely you can see the pit, the crater here exposed, and you can nicely see the neural elements exposed here in an open neural tube defect. So it is not that I say it is diagnostic. Always your diagnostic planes are your 2D ultrasound, but it improves your confidence. You can prove what you want by asking a question. Exactly, what do I want to prove? Is there a skin defect? Is there a lesion? Is there a crater at this point? Then you can go step by step and analyze, and the end result will be you can nicely show the open neural tube defect with the neural elements protruding out. The same thing when we speak of open spina bifida in 11 to 14 week scan, you will always know the intracranial signs because it is the intracranial signs which really help you to pick out these subtle neural tube defects, because the spine evaluation per se in first trimester is very, very difficult. So when we speak about sectional anatomy of the brain, this technique is nothing but TUI. TUI is tomographic ultrasound imaging, which makes you cut the organ in multiple sections, and you can evaluate multiple sections in a single planar format. So now what I have shown you is the normal ventricular cavity of the brain. So this is the butterfly shaped choroid plexus. This is the third ventricle. This is the normal cerebral peduncles and the aqueduct. And this is the fourth ventricle, and this is the fourth cisterna magna complex, fourth ventricle cisterna magna complex. And this is actually the IT, the intracranial translucency. And this is the choroid plexus of the fourth ventricle. So you're nicely seeing the third ventricle, the aqueduct, and the fourth ventricle in a single plane. So what happens in open spina bifida? Because of leakage of cerebrospinal fluid in open spina bifida, all these ventricular fluid drains out and it ends up in a dried up brain, and you won't be able to see any of the ventricular cavities. So see, this is actually the third ventricle, this is the aqueduct and the fourth ventricle, whereas in open spina bifida, you do not see any of these ventricular cavities, and there is herniation of the hindbrain lower down, and that is why you have obliteration of the intracranial translucency. So all these things can be imaged, all the signs described. You may have more than maybe 4, 5 or 6 signs in the axial sections of the brain, but all of them can be demonstrated in a single image for you, in a single planar format. You see, this is a choroid, shaggy choroid plexus, the dried up brain. You see the choroid plexus occupying a lot of area here because the ventricular cavity is dry. You do not see the third ventricle here. Look, you have obliteration of the aqueduct of Sylvius. You can't image the aqueduct here. See the parallel cerebral peduncles. Look at the posterior shift of the midbrain. The cerebral peduncles go and dash the occipital bone. So look at the posterior shift of the midbrain. And if you look at this clearly, you can even see that banana sign here. See, the cerebellum is compressed. You are not able to identify the cisterna magna or the fourth ventricle complex. So in a single section, you can demonstrate all the intracranial signs. And if you're going to see these signs, definitively, you must go and search the spine for an open neural tube defect. So now, finishing off the first trimester spine, I'll take you towards some abnormalities in the mid-trimester where really 3D ultrasound has an added advantage just to prove what you're having in your mind. So look at this. This is a normal posterior fossa, but when I try and evaluate the spine, what happens to me is I feel that suddenly chopped off the lower portion of the spine. There is an abrupt ending of the fetal spine, and you don't know what actually is happening lower down. So this is the abrupt ending of the fetal spine, and you have the cord ending very high above, and you see that you do not have anything below, and you are not able to see the sacral tapering at all. So look at the iliac bones. The two iliac bones are actually opposed to each other, and this is called the shield sign in sacral agenesis when you have absence of the sacrum. And you see nicely here the two iliac, this is a rendering of the iliac bones where you see the opposing iliac bones together. And you see that this is actually T12 vertebra for you. The spine actually L1, L2, the spine actually ends at the level of L2 itself. You see the opposed iliac bones here, and there is complete sacral agenesis. And see, you have brought nice 3D images, very, very similar to an infentogram, even better than an infentogram. That is the advantage of the correct and proper utilization of a 3D ultrasound. Now I finished the spine. I told you about the vascular mapping, venous anomalies. I told you about surface anomalies. And why have I once again brought the face here is whenever people or whenever you speak about 3D ultrasound or 4D ultrasound, most of the people's attention are towards the fetal face. So the question is there anything more in 3D ultrasound of face other than showing happy, pretty fetal faces to the mother? Is that the only role of 3D ultrasound, or does it have any diagnostic value? So if you have listened to my lecture yesterday, I would have shown a few 3D sections when I took the basic lecture, but I reserved a few of them for this lecture because I wanted you to understand the potential of 3D ultrasound in diagnosing facial anomalies, especially cleft in the first trimester. So this, yes, unilateral cleft lip, you can nicely render and show it like this. This is a bilateral cleft lip shown nicely here in the surface rendering mode. The median cleft lip here shown as a defect here. And these are abnormalities of the nostrils, which I showed you yesterday. And now the part is, when there is a cleft extending inside, you can use this multiplanar imaging. You can use the reference dot and identify all three sections in one planar format. So if you see here, you see that there is a cleft here extending lower down. You have complete absence of the base of the premaxillary triangle, and you see that the maxillary line is not here. So you know that this is a complete cleft of the secondary palate, and that's how you can identify and assess the cleft extension into the palate with multiplanar imaging. This is how you can visualize the entire secondary palate with an OmniView. As I told you, the OmniView line. You can but you have to strictly acquire a proper volume, because at the time of volume acquisition itself, you must be able to see the maxillary line. If your maxillary line is shadowed at the time of volume acquisition, you will never get a good 3D image. So you must avoid shadowing, have some fluid in the oral cavity with the fetus in an hyperextension. You draw a simple OmniView line, you get the entire palate nicely visualized in mid-trimester like this. And obviously in a cleft lip and palate, you can utilize this technology to understand cleft extension into the palate. See, now this is the coronal section. Just watch this section. You will see how nicely you can document the cleft extending inside and how the nasal cavity and the oral cavity communicates on this side. So because you need to see an intact base, and so nicely you can appreciate the clefting and especially cleft extension inside, because in the mid trimester the tongue actually obscures the defect. So it's very difficult to know whether the cleft is extending or not. You can use this coronal section and nicely identify whether the cleft extends inside. And this is how you can correlate. So though you know it is a cleft, unilateral cleft lip, you can clearly also assess whether it is extending inside into the palate. Coming to first trimester evaluation of the fetal face and lip, yes, it is little difficult because the soft tissues in the first trimester are not that very much developed, but with the use of a high resolution ultrasound and with the use of the technology. So this is a bilateral CLCP, this is again a bilateral, this is a median, this is a bilateral, these both are unilateral. So you can try and identify these, but in the first trimester, the palate is more easier to see rather than the lip, because the lip abnormality is very, very difficult to see in a very small fetus. So yes, you can, this is micrognathia, and see you can clearly demonstrate the receding chin. And this is unilateral, bilateral, and the median cleft lip at the 13 weeks of gestation. And you can show this with all these images are taken with VCI. So I'm just trying to show you, the image might look very blurred on a 2D ultrasound. Sometimes when you add this VCI, you can nicely demonstrate the subtle defect. And especially 3D ultrasound is a valuable tool in understanding anatomy of a structure. We all know the premaxillary triangle or the retronasal triangle. Suppose you do not know what actually forms the side walls of the triangle or what actually forms the base of the triangle, then it is very simple. You acquire a volume and you put the reference dot in the area of interest. In this video, as the reference dot moves in the coronal plane, you can see this in the Sag plane. Now the reference dot is at the base of the triangle. You can nicely see this maxillary line. You know that this maxillary line is the palate, and hence you can equate that the base of the triangle is always the palate. So if you try and so now actually the reference dot is in the mandible. Now, if you want, I can now place the reference dot at the apex of the triangle. If I place at the apex, what do you see is the nasal bone. If you come to the side walls, from one nasal bone to the next dot, you see now the nasal bone, side walls, frontal process of maxilla. So as you move the reference dot, you can nicely evaluate anatomy. And this is generally multiplanar imaging is one of a better ways to understand the anatomical arrangement in the fetus. Now coming to the palate. So we all know that in the first trimester, we look for the intact maxillary line, the continuity of the alveolar ridge in the axial plane, and the complete base of the retronasal triangle in the coronal plane to evaluate the palate in the first trimester. But all these three things, whatever you want to design and see, can be imaged in a single plane format. See? I put the reference dot in the base of the retronasal triangle. So this is a coronal plane. I know it is intact. See, the reference dot corresponds to this line, the maxillary line. Now, because there is no interruption in the maxillary line, I know that the palate is intact. And you can nicely see the axial view of the palate. You can actually see the entire palate itself. The palate is flat at this point of time. See, this is the alveolar ridge, intact alveolar ridge, and this bony part is the secondary palate. So just in one single plane, one single volume, you can assess all three formats, and you can also do the rendering technique. Just use the render box. Then you can, as I showed in the mid trimester, you can also evaluate the entire palate in the first trimester, as I have shown you here. So what is the advantage of this? Now, because you can evaluate, you can clearly evaluate the cleft extension into the palate. See, this is the palate, and how nicely you can demonstrate this unilateral cleft extending lower down into the entire secondary palate. So this is the advantage of using 3D multiplanar imaging and rendering the volume. You can do an offline analysis and show this image not only to the to your ear to help you in the counseling. You can also give this this image to the maxillofacial surgical team to help them plan and do the pre-pregnancy counseling for the lady and to take care of this baby postnatally. So much of work you can do with 3D ultrasound. So this is once again what I have shown you is a bilateral cleft lip and palate. What you see in the center is the vomer, is the nasal septum, and you see the two paramedian clefts extending sideways, and this is a premaxillary protrusion sitting here. And how do we use this technique to image the palate in the first trimester? Same way, because we all take a nuchal translucency in the first trimester, quickly acquire a volume in the first trimester, and then with that volume, you can draw a line on the palate like this, and you can nicely you can show the palate very clearly by just drawing the line like this. This OmniView line not only is used for evaluating the palate, you can also use the same OmniView line. And look, though I have a sagittal section of the face, when I draw a line like this, see how nicely I can evaluate the orbit, the lenses. You can see the presence of hypo or hypotelorism. You can look for, you've got another plane from the sagittal section. So from sagittal section, nicely you can use the OmniView line and show the orbits like this. You can also use the same OmniView line to track down the retronasal triangle. If you draw a line cutting the nasal bone, the primary and the secondary palate, if you draw a line like this, nicely you will pick out the retronasal triangle. So the same OmniView technique can be used to image the premaxillary or the retronasal triangle. So with a given single volume, you can draw it, cut it into multiple sections and evaluate the face in whatever plane you want. So now you will understand that it is, of course, it is a luxury, but it is an indispensable tool in ultrasound evaluation. See, like you can, this is a normal palate, this is a unilateral cleft palate, this is a bilateral cleft palate, this is a median cleft palate, and this is an isolated cleft of the palate. So much of information this particular modality is going to give you, and it is ideal that we all spend some time in learning this technique. And obviously, the more you try with volumes in the normal ones, because on one fine day when you find an abnormality, then you should not jump to think of doing a 3D ultrasound in that particular case. You have to practice it in the normal ones, evaluate the planes, the sagittal, axial, and coronal planes, do multiplanar imaging, play with the reference dot. Then you can, the abnormal ones will be just very, very easy for you. And the prerequisites of a good 3D volume, repeatedly, it is only one thing, it's a good 2D image. You must have a good 2D image to have to get the end result of a 3D picture. And obviously for surface anomalies, you need sufficient liquor around the structure for surface rendering. You need to cover the area of interest in the volume, and a still hand and a still baby is essential. If the baby moves during the time of volume acquisition, quickly abort it and once again redo it, because if you have movements, then there will be a lot of movement artifacts and you will not be able to produce good quality images. So very simple, as I told you, one single sagittal section, sagittal volume, you can evaluate the all three planes, and this is all needed for the maximum to evaluate the fetal face. So just to conclude, I would like to say that there is a lot more in 3D ultrasound than showing happy, pretty fetal faces. It is very simple that you get into the mindset of using this technology, not only just for surface or showing the surface anomalies, but also try and utilize the utility of multiplanar imaging and the usage of the reference dot. Not utilizing 3D technology for the purpose of improvising diagnostic efficacy is itself the greatest misuse of 3D ultrasound. And I hope I made you understand the utility of this potential technology in routine obstetric imaging. Thank you so much for your patient listening.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi. Thank you very much.
Do I have any questions to answer? I think
Not at the moment. Doctor, if you have any question, you can put in QA box, please.
or you can you can raise your hand and you can ask if you would
Yeah.
want.
You can also raise your hand. You can ask verbally as well.
So the point is, can 3D scans be done? Are you asking me? Is it independent of 2D? Is the question?
It looks like that, Lakshmi. Independent.
So I think you would you're asking me. Yes, you're asking me. Can 3D scans be done independent of 2D? 2D is the crux of imaging. You have to get a proper 2D image, and especially whenever you want to, when you do about 3D, when you think about 3D, it's always you ask a question and you derive an answer from it. So you should know what to acquire, what is the area to be covered, and what you should do. When you do your volume acquisition, the area of interest should be covered in the volume acquisition. There is nothing like independent of 2D imaging. 2D imaging is the crux of 3D imaging. You multiple 2D sets, 2D planes actually form a 3D. So it is you who decide how much of angle of acquisition you want to view that particular structure of interest. See, for example, if you say 3D is independent of 2D, not at all, because if I want to visualize the spine and ribs, then I will take a large volume to cover both the spine and ribs. Otherwise, if I do not understand on 2D imaging, I will not be able to see the end result in 3D. So that's not ideal. But nowadays the technology is the 4D scans. In 4D scans, the resolution is little less, but you can do it lifetime. So at that point of time, you don't need a great calculation. As you do, you will be seeing that image on a 4D scan. But basically, when you want to have an offline analysis, I basically promote this 3D technique. Can you explain the 3-point technique again? Yes. By 3-point technique, I think you are telling me about multiplanar imaging and the usage of the reference dot. See, what is multiplanar imaging means? The 3 orthogonal planes, the sagittal, axial, and the coronal plane of any organ is simultaneously visualized. The reference dot is actually the intersection dot. When you place the reference dot in one particular image, for example, when I place the reference dot in the sagittal section, for example, I place the reference dot on the nasal bone, then the nasal bone will be simultaneously visualized in the axial and in the coronal plane. Okay, so if I have an opportunity, I will take you to 3D techniques in another lecture. This basically was to make you understand the utility of 3D ultrasound. So I could not try and teach you the techniques. Okay, so probably you want to understand the usage of the reference dot, which I explained right now. How about 4D acquisition, madam? Will that add more information? It is the same. The newer technology and the newer equipments, they have a good resolution with 4D acquisition. But in a 4D acquisition, the only thing is the time frame. There'll be a slight lag when you compare with your 2D to your 4D. And secondarily, 4D surface anomalies is okay, but when you want to use the reference dot and try and see in multiplanar imaging or learn anatomy, 4D acquisition may not help you that much because you can't store volumes, multiple volumes. You can just do a simultaneous visualization. That is the difference between a 3D acquisition and a 4D acquisition. Okay. Do I have anything more to answer, or have I made my point clear?
No, I think it's done. You take the last question already.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
so
thank you so much, Yasin. And now I think Dr. Mala Sibal is now going to take you to the next IATA guidelines, and you will all be amazed at the way she teaches you the IATA technique. Thank you, and I shall take leave. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bose.
Thanks, Lakshmi, for those very sweet words. Bye from me. Thank you so much. I heard the last bit of your talk, but I've heard it before. Okay. There are some more questions, Lakshmi. It just says,
Okay.
yeah, thank you, madam.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. How about 4D acquisition, madam? Will that add? Yeah, you finished all of them. Yeah. Okay, Lakshmi. Okay, now, a good evening to everybody. Yasin, am I supposed to start right away?
Yes, Dr. Mala, you can start.
Okay. I think you're still, you haven't turned that off.
What, doctor?
The recording is still on.
Oh, okay.